Toolbox talks, tailgate meetings, and pre-shift safety huddles. Everybody knows what they are, but not everyone knows how to lead an effective one. Furthermore, in my experience as a safety consultant, I typically see these types of meetings become white noise, something that you just get used to and that becomes a check in the box. And that is why in today's episode of the Leadership Safety Brief, we're going to be going over what the purpose of pre-shift safety meetings are, or just safety meetings in general. We're going to go over what an effective safety meeting looks like and how you can transform your safety meetings into platforms for effective safety messaging. So grab your coffee and let's dive into today's episode of the Leadership Safety Brief. All right, good morning everybody. Today's safety topic is slip, trips, falls. Make sure you're keeping your equipment, away from your feet, keeping your work areas clean, clear, free of debris. That way you don't have a slip, trip, fall injury. All right, that's today's safety topic. Does anyone have any safety questions, concerns, comments before we get the day started? All right, have a good day, guys. So what you just saw in that previous act is what my safety meetings used to look like before I understood the true purpose of a safety meeting. If you're anything like me, then perhaps you too have forgotten the true purpose of a safety meeting. So the true purpose of an effective safety meeting is three things. 1, to mentally prepare workers for the day. 2, to cover the unique hazards specific to that day, job, task, or work site. And 3, the most important, to facilitate open communication. When these safety meetings are actually performed correctly, they can be one of the highest return on investment tools that you use in safety. And that's not just my opinion. As a matter of fact, there was a study done in 2025 that looked at 14 separate studies that involved pre-shift safety messaging. In that review, all 14 studies showed an improvement in at least one safety metric. So really, this shows that safety meetings can be effective if we treat them appropriately. All right, so naturally the next question would be, okay, well, how do we lead an effective safety meeting? Well, I'm gonna give you guys the blueprint right now. The first thing you need to do, or I guess the first part of the blueprint is 1, we need to prime our employees' brains for hazard awareness, right? We need to get them to switch or to shift from their home life, their commute, or maybe just from waking up and into work mode, right? If not, then you're just going to be talking to a brick wall, right? Now, I find the best way to do this is by asking an open-ended question. So maybe, hey, what hazards did you see on the way to work today? Or what hazards did you see on your walk over to our meeting location? You can also review any safety incidents that happened the day before and extract some lessons from it. Or you could share a toolbox talk or safety topic, right? The purpose of this video isn't to tell you guys that toolbox talks are bad or that just safety topics in and of themselves are bad, but that they're part of a bigger picture, right? You could use a toolbox talk or a safety topic within your safety meeting, but it shouldn't be the only part of your safety meeting. The second part of this blueprint is going to be discussing unique hazards, right? So things that are unique to today, things that are unique to the job site. So maybe we look at any changes to equipment, any changes to the environment, any injury trends. Are we seeing an increase in slip, trip, falls? Are we seeing an increase in struck by injuries? We could address that with the group. And again, just any hazards unique to the day. Really, what we're trying to do in number 2 is get away from the general broad safety approach by just applying one topic to everything and really addressing safety considerations that are unique to the day, to your work, to your job site. And finally, in my opinion, the biggest part of a safety meeting is to facilitate two-way communication, right? So we call them toolbox talks, safety meetings, tailgate meetings. We don't call them toolbox lectures, tailgate lectures, safety lectures. We call them meetings because they're designed for two-way communication. If you look at our previous 2 points, priming the brain and then discussing unique hazards, that really is just there to build up to this third and final point, which is facilitating two-way communication, right? So we're priming the brain, we're waking them up, we're getting them to shift from home life or the commute or from sleep into a work mindset. And then number 2, we're discussing unique hazards to the day, right? We're reminding them of anything that may have changed, any specific hazards they may face or are facing in this kind of nature of work, whatever they're doing. So by this time, they already have things rolling around in their head, right? They may have some questions about what you just said, the safety topic you presented on, or maybe some things you discussed when you were priming the brain. Whereas if you don't do those previous two things, priming the brain and discussing unique hazards, if you just come out, kind of like in my skit, and just ask a question, present a topic, you're just talking to people who haven't shifted yet, right? They probably just want to get to work. They don't want to hear people talk. Whereas if you do those two previous points, now they have some things going around in their head that they may want to talk about, right? And then now they're more primed to be able to engage in conversation and engage in what you're asking. So remember, the ultimate goal in any toolbox talk, safety committee meeting, safety meeting, any safety messaging platform is to facilitate two-way communication. We call them safety meetings, toolbox talks, tailgate meetings for a reason. They're not called lectures. The reason this is important is to facilitate the overall safety culture. If they're just used to supervisors coming out, giving them a toolbox talk or a safety topic, and then boom, going to work, they might just zone out during that time. You might be there talking to them, but they're somewhere else. They're still at home, or they're still on the road. They're still half asleep. All right, so make sure you're walking through these points when you do your safety meeting. So to recap, our blueprint here. 1, we have prime the brain for hazard awareness, whether that's asking an open-ended question, going over any incidents that happened the previous day, or starting with a toolbox talk or safety topic, but not making that the whole meeting. Then we went into number 2, which is discussing specific unique hazards of the day. So anything that may have changed in the work areas. Maybe if you're in a construction site, there's an open pit introduced somewhere now, right, that they have to be aware of. If you're working outside, discussing the heat, if it's hot out. Anything specific to that work site, that task, or that day. Any near miss or previous incidents that happen, any trends. Maybe you're noticing more slip, trips, falls, struck by hazards. You could discuss that during this section as well. And then finally, number 3 was the ultimate goal of a safety meeting, right? Which is two-way communication. So by this time, you probably had 5 to 10 minutes going through those last 2 points to prime the brain. Now we want to get feedback. Hey, so what can we do to make the job safer today? Or what can we do now that we know that there's an open pit in the floor? What can we do to make sure that nobody falls into that? You're getting engagement. You probably already know the answer, but we're just trying to get them going. We're trying to get the gears moving. That's it for this episode. I hope you guys were able to get some good information out of this, to see the true purpose of a safety meeting. If you guys have any questions, concerns, if you have successes, please feel free to leave them in the comments. If you're still stuck, I say it every episode, please go to www.atlassafetyconsultants.com, which is my website, and fill out that Contact Us form. Every single message gets sent directly to me, and I'd be more than happy to schedule a free 30-minute coaching session with you. All right, no hidden fees. This is just me giving back to the safety profession. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next episode of the Leadership Safety Brief.